Thank you very much for that kind introduction, Samantha. Appreciate it. We've got a bit of a challenge here in front of us right now, haven't we? Anybody that's seen me speak live on stage, they know that I can speak for days live on stage. To compress that down to 2 or 3 hours speaking in a live introductory event, which we're in the process of, and now is a challenge within itself. Nevertheless, compressing it down to 60 minutes. 60-minute live webinar is I've never done before in regards to compressing my presentation down. I've done quite a few webinars, but not a presentation, which I'll do live from stage. So as a result of that, I've got to pick the pace up. So forgive me for that if I speak a little bit quickly. I just want to deliver as much content as I possibly can. Also, I've got to cut my presentation down to half. So I'm going to cut out a whole lot of educational chunks, but I'll also leave in a whole lot of great educational chunks. But don't worry, you'll get a huge amount of value out of what this webinar, because we're going to do something that other speakers just don't do when it comes to webinars and that sort of thing. And what that is for me to try and explain that. I've got to turn the clock back a little bit. I've been speaking on stage for about 10 years now, running educational events. I'm sure some of you have either attended them or you've seen or know about them. And I'll touch on that shortly when we go through the get to know me process a little bit. But I want a big part of the success of my business, Real Estate Investing Australia, is due to Samantha Brown. So I want to say thank you very much for that. This is going back quite a few months. And she said, well, let me think about it, what she wants as a gift. And what she wanted to do was basically give back to her community at Global1 and say, look, Stephen, the $3,000 program that you charge for your workshops, which is a 12-hour fully catered for program, and that's absolutely jam-packed. People pay $3,000 to $5,500 for that program. So she said, why don't you give that to my client base at Global1 for free? So we sat down, we brainstormed all of that on how that would work, because that scared me a little bit. But we ended up doing that. And that's what this live tour was about. It was about me giving my educational workshops, which I charged $3,000 for at least, to Global1 clients for free. We just asked to throw in a few dollars there just to cover the cost of the catering, because there are high-end venues that we hold our workshops in, like Sydney Olympic Park and all the CBD locations in Melbourne and Brisbane and Perth. So we just want to, apart from that, you get the workshop for free. Now, that was Samantha wanting to give back, and which I absolutely respect, and I thought, okay, well, that's it. So a lot of you in this webinar, unfortunately, was not able to attend those live events. So, one, I welcome you on board to sit in on this live webinar now. And what we're actually doing is extending this offer to you. So there's a huge amount of value that you're going to get out of this webinar. It's a no-brainer. What I'm going to do now is I'm bringing up the link for you to register on there now. As a result of everybody registering for my program at the live events, there's less than 10 spots in each capital city for it. So it's literally first in, best dressed. I wouldn't even think about it, just register, because the amount of value that you'll get, you won't get anywhere else. There's something like 4 spaces left in Brisbane, 7 left in Sydney, and I don't have hundreds of people in my workshops. I literally keep them down to about 60 people. So, and the reason for that is because I want to make sure everybody's questions get answered. Their partners are compulsory to bring to the events as well. You want to bring your partners, or you want to do everything you can, because when you go home, you'll have all this education and your partners simply just won't know what you're talking about. You remember all the high-level points, but won't deliver all the nuggets of gold that's in between those, and want to attend the next event. And it's all about communication with your partner, right? And both being on the same page. So write this link down, so that way you've got it throughout the this webinar. And if you decide to want to just register throughout, do it as soon as you can. Who's it for? If you're alive, you should be doing this workshop. I have people in my workshops that the partner signed up, dragged their other partner along. They don't even want to be there. And then they said, wish I did this sooner. When should you do it? The day you leave school and start work, that's when you should do this program, because it's all about working smart first, so you can create financial freedom sooner in life, because people are waiting till they're 60, 70 years old and they still don't achieve financial freedom. And it's all about doing it, hopefully, in the next 10 years. So there's people there that hopefully they achieve that by the age of 30. And there's no reason why you can't, but you need a plan put in place. So I'm not going to go on about that any longer, but I'll go into at the end of the webinar what it's all about and what you actually get. So, and believe me, you'll see value in paying $3,000, $5,000 for my program, nevertheless getting it for free and just contributing $97 for the catering side of things, because we feed you morning tea, lunch and afternoon tea. Now, just a little bit about me, and how, I just want to explain a little bit about me and how I got here today. And I'm not going to go through all the rags to riches stories, so I'll keep it short and sweet. So what I wanted to do was talk about, I grew up in Sydney's western suburbs in a place called Blacktown. There was a new estate that was shooting up, and properties were just selling like absolute hotcakes. I mean, we've all seen it. You just need to turn the TV on today and you'll see people camping out overnight just to buy a block of land in a new community estate, and the price is just going up astronomically. Well, that's the sort of thing that was happening when I was the age of 22 years old, and I saved up enough money to buy a house for around about $140,000, an old red brick house type thing, which I didn't even really want, but they had this new estate shooting up, a place called Glenwood, and the problem was the blocks of land were on average $135,000, and I had enough for a block of land, but I need to build a house, and I never had enough money to build the house. So what happened was I had a friend of my dad who was a small builder developer, and he understood. He was a pretty smart guy, the smartest guy I knew out in Blacktown anyway. And he said to me, look, put a deposit on one of those blocks of land. It was Landcom was the land developer at the time. And they said, they're doing this strategy out there. You'll make really good money in a short period of time. So I wasn't skeptical. I was just hungry. And back then I was doing negative gearing seminars. There weren't too many wealth creation seminars that were out in Blacktown back in those days. So what I did was I wasn't skeptical. I was just hungry. And my goal back then was, maybe if I could buy a property every 2-3 years, and they say it doubles every 7 to 10 years, which we know that's not entirely true. Properties can take 25 years to double. Properties can double in 3 years. We've seen that happen as well. So but they say on average they double every 7 to 10 years. And you've got to, like everything, you've got to break it down, whatever parcels of information that you get in any genre. You've got to really dissect information, and that's one thing I've been able to do over the years, and is dissect when people say certain things, especially in the property arena, really look at what the truth is. And so my goal was buy a property maybe every 2-3 years. Hopefully they double every 7 to 10 years, and off we go. I never had a plan of being here today educating people on what I've been doing over the last over 20 years now. So I did that. I bought a block of land. He said, you're going to make money in a short period of time. I wasn't skeptical. I just did it. Put a deposit on a block of land, lodged plans and accounts for a brand new 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom, double lock-up through Beechwood Homes. Cost $80,000 to build a 4-bedroom house back in those days. And we, by the time that was came out of council 2 months later, my property had increased by $25,000. So from 135 grand I paid for it to about 160, which gave me about $25,000 in profit, which I went to the bank and said, can you revalue my block of land? They revalued it, $25,000 more, and I used that as a deposit to build the house on there. I built the house, I put the wrong colour bricks, roof gutters, tiles, all that sort of thing, still looked pretty good. Built the house, the property was putting $15 a week in my pocket. So I was positively geared at the end. And I thought, wow, this is supposed to be one of the most stressful things. And all these things still went wrong, but I made really good money. Now, that was 3/4 of a year's wages back then. That's good money today to make 25 grand in 2 months. And that probably just still kept increasing. That property is now worth about $850,000, $900,000 in Glenwood, 19 Bitten Grove in Glenwood. And back then, it cost me like $310,000. So it's performed really, really well for something I've just held on to. Now, I was, from that experience, I tried to do it again, but the banks never lent me any money to go out there and do it again. I put a deposit on another block. The banks knocked me back, and I thought, well, why? So I want to assess what the banks assess as high risk, low risk, medium risk, that sort of thing. So I quit I finished my apprenticeship. I'm a boilermaker by trade. What's a boilermaker? Well, I worked on the 6 Collins class submarines, to give you an idea. Anything that's 3 millimeters and over is a boilermaker when it comes to steel. So I know how to weld and do all those sorts of things. And what happened was I quit that and I became a mortgage broker to learn how to get money from the banks. And then one thing led to another, and I've been doing property ever since. I've done renovations, I've done property investment, I've done small developments, I've done all those sorts of things. But I've been very heavy on property investing and renovating over the years. And once you do something for 10 years, you wouldn't mind a bit of a change. And I was doing renovating to an extreme level, to a point where I could walk into a bookstore and people weren't, they're writing books on renovating, and that they weren't getting the same result that I was getting. And I thought, well, why is that? And I was doing this with my partner at the time. So after going to seminars, I've been going to seminars since I was pretty much been 19 years old, and I've seen pretty much all the seminars and workshops that have been out there. I've got a huge library of, huge investment in my library in regards to education, and I got up to a point where I wasn't learning anything anymore. And I'd go there just to try and get a little nugget here and there to make me better at my craft. But if anything, what was starting to happen, I wasn't doing it out loud, but internally I was just picking on the speaker, and they're missing this, they're missing this, they're missing this, which exposes you to risk. So it's all about risk in any form of investing, whether it's property, renovating, property development, shares, whatever it is, business, there's risk with everything. And all you've got to try and do is try and eliminate the risk process. And that's the beauty of doing educational workshops, because it helps you eliminate the risk, which can stop you from going broke. It puts you in a better position for performance and all those sorts of things. So I thought, well, okay. My biggest fear was public speaking, just like everyone, nothing different. And I thought, you know, I've got all this knowledge. I'd like to go down and try and educate, because I was getting bombarded with people saying, Steve, how do you get these results? How do you do this? How do you get all this results? And instead of me doing speaking forever, I thought, well, why don't I put together a program and teach other people how to do it? So I did that. And I built a business called Renovating for Profit. Some of you may know Renovating for Profit. It's the #1 educational renovating and property investing workshop in the world. There's nothing like it in the UK, the US, or in Australia. It's absolutely huge. It's been going for just under 10 years now, and it's still going today. Some of you may know Renovating for Profit through Cherie Barber. Cherie and I have a little daughter together, and we built that business together. We did all the renovations together and started off in property together pretty much. And she's on the Living Room on Channel 10. You'll see her, the blonde girl that does all the renovations every second week pretty much for the last 6 years on the Living Room, and has a TV show over in the US called 5 Day Flip. Now, one thing I want to talk to you about that, like these workshops are huge. Every 3 months, you've got people, 500-600 people that attend these events that are paid $5,500 each. So it's a big monstrosity, the Renovating for Profit workshop, all about education and teaching people how not to go broke when even selecting a property. People think you can buy a house unrenovated and make money from it these days because they get caught up on these TV shows, and it's not that simple or easy. So I'm no longer part of that business. But when I built that business, I want to, what I highlighted to me was that people would now know what to do to get renovating a home and making a profit from it done correctly, how to do it correctly, and whether they were committed to be able to tick all the boxes to eliminate the risk. And if they weren't, they would increase their risk. And some people did do renovating after that, and some people did not do renovating after that. But at least they know what it took to be able to do it correctly and to minimize risk doing it. So at the end of the day, what we identified with all the people going through was that people just want to build a property portfolio. There's only so many ways to make money in this world. You can put your money in the share market. You can put your money in a term deposit. That's not going to make you wealthy. You can put your money in in your superannuation. That's not going to make you money. That's not going to create your wealth. And then you can do business, property, or shares. What you realise is that you've got to do one outside your job. You've got to select one. And property is what people are mostly comfortable with. So people are trying to build a property portfolio, but then they have properties that sit there for 7-8 years and they don't even perform. They don't perform in any way, shape, or form. So people want to build a property portfolio, but they want that performance out of it. And so I thought, well, there's a business model in doing that. So there was people getting caught up in the glossy brochures of fancy magazines and buying properties through property investment companies, and they thinking, and I'd ask them, well, why did you buy these? And they'd have all their reasons why they bought them, but it just wasn't enough. So to me, it was clear, but to them, it wasn't. They'd go through the program and it would highlight all the flaws in going down that path and getting caught up in the fancy magazines and the brochures of property investment companies. And I thought, well, okay, how can we eliminate risk? Most people fall into a price point when investing in property. So they'll spend most of their money on their owner-occupied home. And then if you ask them, do they invest? They mostly say, oh, yes, I do. No, I don't, because I want to have a lifestyle. So for them to go out there and invest, they usually fall in a price point of 350 to 550,000. Well, I thought, well, there's a lot of property investment companies that do a great job, right? So who's focusing on, there's also over 20,000 suburbs in Australia, who's focusing on the best location in its infancy before it takes off or is already taking off, and only delivering that to market? And I found, I did as much research, I spent about 8 months doing researching all the property investment companies that were out there in Australia. And you know what? I did not find one company, all the way from the largest down to the one-man dog in his ute, did not find one company that just focused on that. Our properties all over the country. And the reason why they do that is because they rather cater for what you want versus what's best for you. Because everybody wants, if they're living in Perth, they probably want to buy in Perth, or they're living in Melbourne, they want to buy in Melbourne, or if they're living in Brisbane, they want to buy in Brisbane. And so they don't all perform adequately all the time. So they all have their different cycles. And I thought, well, you know what? There's actually a market on delivering a performing location all the time, because irrelevant of what the market's doing, there's always a location that performs in its infancy at that price point. You can't go too cheap, otherwise you're just buying rubbish. But you want to have been a certain price point where you're going to get some good performance. So I've even got some video testimonials, which I'll send out to you later because I won't have time to play them in here. But there's clients where when the GFC was on that I was dealing with, and they made phenomenal profits when the GFC was on. Now, the market doesn't get any worse than that. And yet our clients are making really good profits. It's because people are more selective. People will always buy property as relevant how bad the market gets. They're more selective in the types of properties that they choose to buy. And you need to understand those markets and the headspace of those people that do buy and deliver a product that those people want as well. So there's a lot of things to know about that. So another thing that we identified is that people don't even know how much they need for retirement. I'm not going to go too much into this, but I'm going to touch on some high-level points here. For most people, I'll just touch on this as well, because of the philosophy that we had in regards to delivering a high-performing product to the marketplace, we knew that if the client performs and they get a result, then we will get a result and we'll win as a result of that client's performance. And that will encourage, not only will they get a result, but they'll turn into repeat clients. And for example, just in 2015, our company, our organisation, Real Estate Investing Australia, in the top 100 companies in Australia, got ranked 8th place. Now, it's purely because of our performance, of our philosophy. Our philosophy was, if a client wins, we will win automatically. And so so that was a good little accolade for just having a good moral and having integrity in our philosophy and maintaining that, and still being here today, 10 years later. So what do you need to retire on? People want to retire on $100,000 a year. They don't even know what it takes to get that. That's what they want on average. So to be able to do that, and everything that you're seeing here, I've just kept the numbers nice and round for an educational format, so it's easy for you to understand. So they want $100,000 to retire on, but what they need to do is, what does that take to be able to get that coming in every single year? They need $2 million. So they need $2 million, but on top of that, they also need their home paid off in full. So the house that you're buying, that you're spending 30 years paying it off, you need to have that paid off in full and also have $2 million in liquid cash saved up so you can put in a term deposit where it's nice and safe and get an average of 5% return on that on a year. You put in $1 million, it's 50 grand, 100,000, or you need to put in $2 million plus have your house paid off. So that's, people aren't even aware of that. A lot of people don't even know what it takes to be able to achieve that, and that's out of the scope. People don't even look at that in their young age. Really, you can achieve all that by the age of 30, 35 years old, should be quite comfortable. But people don't even look at it till they're the age of 40, 50, and they become more risk adverse as they get later in life because they know they don't have much working life left in them. So let's have a look at this, what it takes to be able to do that. On an $80,000 income, to achieve a $2 million savings, this is what you need to do. you need to save after tax $145,000 every year for the next 15 years. Can a person that's on $80,000, which is a normal income here in Australia, do that? Absolutely not. It won't even exist, because most people just have, after having their home, if they've got their home that they're paying off, plus kids, the car, all the bills that go out, they've only got a small amount available cash at the end of the week, and they usually want to have a lifestyle at the end of that. Problem is that people don't know that you have to do both. You have to invest, and yes, you also want to have a lifestyle, but you can do both, but people don't know how to do both. That just comes down to learning how to work smarter first. So they can't do that. So let's be more conservative. If they can't do that, they won't retire on 100,000. Let's be more conservative. Let's cut that down in half. Can they save 72,500 every year after tax for the next 15 years? Impossible. That won't happen either. If they can't do that, then they won't retire on half of what they're expecting. They won't retire on 50,000. Let's be conservative again. Can they save $36,000 after tax every year for the next 15 years? No, they can't do that either. So if they can't do that, they're not going to retire on $25,000. Now, some people say, oh, if I don't buy the car, if I don't go on the holiday, if I get another job. So now what the problem is you're trying to change your lifestyle to adapt to your retirement fund. Now, it's not just about retiring, it's about not having to work as early as possible. Now, this is not about you going out, getting another job, or going out and not buying the car that you need. This is about what we do is free up money that you don't even realize you've got and use that to go out and invest with. It's about working smarter first, but people don't know what working smart is. And I'm going to show you in this presentation what it is. So there's no point going any further than this, because the pension's just above 19,000, which is below the poverty line, and a pension for the couple is $29,000, which is just above the poverty line. It's actually a good wealth creation strategy just here. Go and find a partner when it comes to retirement, you'll make more money. So that's a funny notion there. But look, it just goes to show, if you can't save $36,000 a year, if you can save $36,000 a year, or you're struggling to save that, you're just above the pension anyway. So there's no point. So there's no point trying to save that, because it's not going to get you anywhere. Your job is just there to pay for all your day-to-day runnings. And then what you need to do is have something else, some other form of investing, whether it's business, property, or shares, to go out there and create another residual income on top of that. So most people, and this is 95% of Australians, will retire on the pension. This is what the lifeline looks like. You come along, you buy a house at the age of 30. You come to, you hear a guy like me come along and say, oh, great, Steve tells me that I'm minus $180,000. You say, you know what, bugger Steve and his way of doing things. I'm going to continue on. I'm going to put extra on my mortgage. I'm going to pay weekly instead of monthly. That'll shave it down by 5 years. And you just keep paying off your mortgage. You retire, or you pay off your mortgage. The money that you were spending on interest, you save. So that saves you a big chunk of money. But then the problem is you want to retire on $100,000. That only lasts you a few years, and then your money runs out before you do. You realise that you need to make $2 million. What does that look like on the graph? $2 million. It's a drastic change to where most people are. What if I extended out another 10 years, my retirement? Well, still something very, very drastic. If you've been working for 10, 20, 30 years and you're in the minus figures, that's a big problem. You're doing something wrong. But you're doing probably what everybody else does, which seems right, but they're doing it wrong as well. And this is the problem. This is why most people in Australia retire on the pension. The other look at this is was done quite some time ago in a census. The government was concerned about how people were retiring, what they were retiring on financially. So they want to put it down and see where they all were. And they said 15 people won't even make it to the age of 65. They'll pass away for whatever reason. 74 will become dependent on welfare. What's the pension? $436 for a single, $658 for a couple. 7 must still work to survive. So they must still work to pay the mortgage. Nevertheless, have any investments. They've got to work to pay their mortgage. 3 will become financially secure. 1 will become independently wealthy. What's wealth in the eyes of the government? If you earn a minimum of $1,000 a week, you're in the top 1% of Australians when it comes to wealth. So that means everyone, and when I speak all over the country, everyone wants at least $50,000 a year coming in, at least. But to do that, that means you're in the top 1%. Only 1% of Australians will ever achieve that. So the odds are against you. And it's because of the mechanics of the way the government set up the tax system and everything. But it can help you. The government will actually give you money to create wealth with, but people don't know about it, or they're not accessing it. And therefore, you can actually create a lot of wealth by utilising the funds the government wants to give you, but people don't do it. So what's the result of not achieving financial freedom and just being a slave to your job? People go through all these things. They go through drugs and alcohol. How many people drink alcohol and take drugs these days? It's everyone. Like the amount of people in the seminars, how many people know someone that takes drugs or drinks alcohol? Everybody puts their hands up. It's ridiculous. Heart attack, high blood pressure, insomnia, eating disorders, weight gain, getting divorced, angry, difficulty sleeping, anxiety, depression. These are all normal things for having all this financial pressure put on all of us. So it's not a healthy thing having you need to have a holistic approach. You can eat as healthy as you want, but if you don't get your finances in order, you can still get all of these things, irrelevant of how healthy you eat. So you need to have a holistic approach to life to be happy in all different areas. So fear of retiring on the pension should be greater than the fear of any excuse you can find. It's all about getting the most out of life and just being happy. And it's not all about money, but unfortunately, living in a capital city, living a normal life, money's like breathing air. You just burn through it. So it's not the right time to buy a property. I hear that the market is flat. The property bubble is about to burst. You know what? I've been hearing this stuff for over 20 years. It's always time. It's always different cycles. Don't do that. Everybody's an expert when you go to the barbecue when it comes to property. So let's have a bit of an affordability outlook and what's happening in the marketplace. So is Australia unaffordable? Well, that's up to everybody's personal view and opinion. So yes, you can pay $10, $20 million for a property on the water in any capital city in Australia. Very expensive, mostly unaffordable for most people. So, but you can go 20 kilometres out from a CBD location, and do properties get cheaper? Of course they do. You can buy a property for $500,000. You can even go and turn on a current affair, and every time everything you hear on that is true. And you've seen articles on there where people live in the country and councils are giving away blocks of land for free, just as long as you live there for a couple of years. So affordability is not really an issue in this country. Affordability of the lifestyle is becoming unaffordable. That's a big difference. There's plenty of land in this country to go out and live cheaply, but people just don't want to live there in many cases. They want to live close to the CBD. But let me tell you, there's a lot of things happening in CBD locations in every capital city, and they are becoming most undesirable to live in as well. So we're going through some big changes. I'm going to show you what the big picture is. If I asked you, if you could turn the clock back 10 years or 20 years, how many people would have bought more property? You would have all said, yes, I would love to buy more property, or you buy as much as you possibly can afford. Why? Because you now know what the result is. But 10 years ago or 20 years ago, you would have had those conversations, everyone has them, where you think, oh, I can't see how somebody could pay $500,000 for a property. That's ridiculous. Properties are at $250,000. How can they afford to pay $500,000? Or how can they afford to pay $1 million or $2 million or $3 million? Those conversations have been had. I've had them. They've always been there, and they will always be there moving forward as well. Now, let's just tackle that one for a second. Who buys a $3 million property? Is it unaffordable? No, it's not unaffordable at all. It's unaffordable if you're not on the property market. It's unaffordable if you can't afford it. But people that are buying a $3 million property or a $2 million property or a $5 million property are people that have been in the property game for quite some time, and they're not getting if you've got a $3 million property, they're not getting a $3 million loan. They're usually getting maybe no loan, or they're getting a $500,000 mortgage because they've already got $2.5 million under their belt. So it's all relative. The price points are relative to their lifestyle that they're willing to choose, because they've got the equity to be able to make those choices of where they want to live and how much they want to spend. Now, people that do get where it does get affected when it comes to affordability are people that are not in the property market. We will get to a point where everybody in each capital city will just end up renting, especially the young ones. The one Generation Y, they're saying 80% won't even afford to be able to buy a house unless their parents help them with equity. The ones that are being born now, they're literally they're virtually saying there's only a very, very small percentage of people that will be able to afford to buy a home. There's always the exceptions of people that do well in life, but all the ones that are just fall in the bracket of the average Australian won't be able to afford it unless their parents help them buy a property by utilising a lot of equity. So we'll become a nation of renters, like parts of Europe where properties are so expensive. Which is, that's just the trend of where we're going. And I'm going to go into why that's happening as well. So, yeah, it's an interesting one, the affordability outlook. But there's something that's happening in Australia, and you might not know exactly what's happening out there. So you're experiencing things that are very exciting now, but interest rates are cheap, and they're talking about, what if we change the negative gearing and all those sorts of things. For my clients, all these things are a huge benefit. I actually can't wait for interest rates to go up because it's going to create a whole lot of new opportunities for my clients. So we're very excited, and some of these policies of getting rid of negative gearing, it all comes down to breaking down the information and understanding what it actually means for you. And so we're actually hoping that it does happen. So it opens up a new world of additional money that you can actually access and grow from. So it's very exciting. But there's something that's happening in Australia. It's very unique. It's got nothing to do with interest rates or what the government's changed or anything on those lines in regards to negative gearing. There's something that's happening that's that's going to create another huge boom, especially from a medium or long-term perspective. And it's a massive opportunity. And when I ask audiences, do they know what it is? And you get the odd person that might be onto it, but most people aren't even aware of what's happening around them, which is crazy. So what you've got is it's called baby boomers. So, right, it's already happening under our nose. We already know about it. You've got about 20 to 25% of the Australian workforce leaving the Australian workforce. So get this, and they're retiring. So think about this. You've got somebody that's working, paying approximately $400 a week tax, then that's now not going in the economy because they're retired. They're going on the pension, which is roughly just over another $400. So let's round up $800 not going into the economy. That is a massive, massive impact on the economy. So that times 5 million people retiring between now and the next 10 years is a disaster for this economy. It's so bad that they have to fix it. So when you pay your tax returns, what are the biggest? When you look at your tax return, you'll see they'll have a graph, and they'll have the lines on where your money goes. They'll have like defence and things like that. There'll be all little small things like roadworks, but then the biggest two lines is welfare and healthcare. So they're the biggest two costs of this government, and they need to get under control. So what happens when somebody retires? They go on welfare, and then as they get older, they get sicker. So they start going to the doctors more. I know people that go to the doctors just for something to do because they're bored at home. So they're just to get out of the house. It's crazy. They get sicker, in-home nursing, healthcare. There's so many costs that are associated with when you're getting older. So what do they do to try and fix it? They say, well, what if we get them working longer? That can minimize the impact. What if we start charging them to go to the doctors? What if we do this and do all those other things? That will help put a couple of Band-Aids on the situation, but doesn't fix it. What they really need to do is double the taxes of everyone here in Australia, but they're not going to do that. That's what they need to do to solve this problem. It's such a big problem. They can't do that. So what's the other alternative? What if we migrate more people into Australia and get them paying taxes to compensate the people that are retiring? So that's what they're doing. A few years back, they migrated about 80,000 people into Australia. A couple of years ago, it was about just under 400,000. They need to migrate about 500,000 people into Australia working for the next 10 to 15 years to compensate this. We don't have enough properties to cater for the population that we have today, or 10 years ago or 20 years ago, and it's only going to get 10 times worse. This country has never experienced anything that's coming here. So what I want to do is, I want to play a video for you for the ABC. This is going to show you the big picture, because even if you could turn the clock back 10 years ago or 20 years ago, we've always heard, don't buy a property now, interest rates are going to go up, property market's going to crash. We've heard all these stories. So you're going to hear the same stories again in the next 10 years. But at the end of the day, properties have also dramatically increased over that time. So I just want to show you what the big picture is, and that's all you need to focus on. So check out this video. It only goes for 60 seconds. I'm keeping this short, but I want you to really grasp this.
Sydney Tower boasts the highest lookout in the CBD. I've come here with urban researcher Dr. Julian Boliter for a bird's eye view of the city sprawling in all directions. It's amazing to think that more than 100,000 people cross that bridge every single day, and that's just one direction.
Absolutely, and mostly in private cars, and this is something as our cities get more congested will become less and less viable.
Australia's population is projected to reach up to 70 million by the end of this century. The extra space we'll need to live like this is mind-boggling.
It means that we need to build a new Sydney every 10 years for the next 90 years.
That sounds impossible.
It does. It's a formidable challenge. It's taken us 200 years to build Sydney as we know it. We now need to build one of these every 10 years.
So what does that mean for a city like Sydney? Are we just going to see ever more increasing urban sprawl?
No, we actually can't. Sydney's pushing into national parks to the north and the south and to the Blue Mountains to the west. So in Sydney, the only way is up.
Okay, so Sydney, the only way is up. What does that mean? That means apartments. The amount of seminars that I've spoken to, or people I've spoken to, which has been thousands of people over the last few years, when I ask them the question, who would like to raise, and ask yourself this question and tell me that I'm wrong, who would like to raise a family in an apartment? No one puts their hands up. Nobody wants to do that. But the reality is we're going to be forced to do that. You won't even have a choice. See, apartments are really, I've got a bit of a hate with apartments, but you can make good money in apartments, but there are a whole lot of risks and things associated. So when they're talking about, oh, if the property market could crash or anything, it's mostly wrapped around apartments. It's not wrapped around house and land or properties. So it's mostly wrapped around apartments because now the only way is up. But look at the trends. Most people buy apartments because they're either young, they want to get in the property market, hopefully make a little bit of something. But as soon as they want to nest and they want to start having kids, it's always, I'd rather move a little bit out further or get something a little bit cheap, get something in an outer area that they can afford to raise a family in a house and land. They never want to raise a family in apartments. But we're going to get to a point where they won't be able to afford the house land because that's where all the demand is, but we're running out of land. So all the house prices increase in value and all the higher income earners, they can maintain and hold on to those properties, right, which don't get affected when it comes to the property prices or very minimal. But then the apartment side of things, you've got people that are renting or people that get divorced or people that are very busy and they don't want to do gardens. They're the type of people that predominantly that have apartments, and it's usually the investor market because it's cheap, the yields are there. But when it comes to the risk associated with it, anything that might be affected in regards to the property market, 99% of the times will always be flanked with apartments, especially moving forward because they don't have a choice but just to build more apartments. They can't build more house and land because they're running out of land in all the capital cities. So something to really keep in mind and bear in mind when it comes to selecting on properties. A lot of people don't have a choice but to get in the apartment market, but there's a whole lot of risks that you need to know, which I go through in my workshops anyway. So what's the forecast with properties with all these sorts of things happening behind the scenes? Okay, just a couple of years ago, the Sun Herald brought out they got all the major forecasting houses and said, where will properties be in, say, roughly 10 years' time? Now, I've got this in here deliberately because already a couple of years have gone past. I want to show you what the median house prices were then and what they are now and the performance of where we're pretty much sitting and what they're forecasting it to be in 10 years. So the last thing you want to do is turn the clock back and say, oh, yeah, I would have bought more properties. You're going to do exactly the same thing now in the next 10 years. What happens after 10 or 15 years' time when with migration, all the rest of it, and what happens with I don't know. All I know is that there's a massive opportunity between now and the next 10 years to take advantage of. If you don't, then you'll simply, if you can't afford to get in a property now, you pretty much will just miss the boat. So let's have a look at what these results are. The results are pretty much back in 2014, they said that Sydney's median house price is $812,000. Now it's over $1 million. So it's already grown 200,000 the last couple of years. They're forecasting to be $1.8 to $4 million. These are the median house prices, right? Melbourne, 608 to 1.36. Brisbane, 477 to over $1 million. Perth, 620 to 1.39. Adelaide, 460 to $1 million. Now, even if they're wrong by $100,000 or $200,000, it doesn't make any difference because there's still an opportunity to get some good growth. And it's not just about doing one. You need to have a property portfolio. To have $2 million under your belt, that's 4 properties. There's a Ross Greenwood video. You can go to my website. It's reiaust.com.au on the home page. You've got Ross Green. There's a Ross Greenwood video that you can get access to. Just shoot an email off to it if you can't access it, and we'll email it through to you. Now, with the Ross Greenwood video, he says you need to have 4 properties at the very minimum. If you're already 40, 50, 60 years old and you don't have a plan in place to be able to achieve that, well, you end up on below the poverty line, which is the pension, which is a problem. So huge opportunity. Interest rates are as cheap as they've ever been. There's an opportunity to be part of something that's big in regards to getting some good capital growth. If you're in a situation where you can't afford to buy property now and you don't put a plan in place today to be able to do it in the next 12 months, you won't be able to keep up with the amount of growth there is. You won't be able to save at a point where you need to get into the property market. You really need to have goals and plan in place to be able to do that. If you don't do that now, then you simply just miss out and you won't be a property owner in Australia. And that's the Australian dream, to be able to do that. So that takes some work and commitment from your end. There's strategies behind it all. And the most of all right now, it's about getting your situation and freeing up money that you don't even realise you have. A lot of people go to the banks and say, Steve, I've been at the bank. They said I can't borrow money. Yeah, but then they come and see us and suddenly they can borrow money. So it's a big difference. So this is a really great exercise that I do live on stage. I can't do this live here, but essentially the nuts and bolts of it is I go out to the audience and I say, who's owned a property for roughly 10 years that's had no renovations, no subdivisions, no improvements whatsoever, just held a property for 10 years, whether it's owner-occupied or investment. And they tell me, and I write down, what do you pay for it? What's it worth today? What do you pay for it? What's it worth today? And you'll have, on average, I get about 10 or 12 different properties that I get to write up on the whiteboard. 90% of them had fantastic results, and there'll be about 10% that, usually a couple of people that have lost money or they've had no growth whatsoever. And then I'll go through this, I explain to them and I'll go through this diagram on why that's actually happened. And the reality is people that have got properties that have performed, and I'll touch on the ones that haven't performed, but for now, the ones that have performed, those properties pretty much, they've bought a property, they've had it for 10 years, but they all agree that 75% of the time that property hasn't done anything. It's just sat there. But then the property's suddenly gone through a boom phase and it's doubled in value in 20, 25% of the time, which usually happens over 1, 2 or 3 years, which we're experiencing right here, right now. But what you're experiencing in, like what you've just seen that's occurred in Sydney is a macro level boom. There's lots of micro level booms that happen all the time, but people just aren't aware of them and they don't see them. The only way they find out about them, they pick up the property investment magazines, look in the graphs at the back of those magazines and tells you what a suburb has performed over the last 12 months. And some suburbs grow in the minus figures, some don't grow at all, some grow 20, 30, 50, 80%. And they wonder, wow, that would have been a great place, but it's too late. By the time you read about it, it's too late. Our job is to find those before they occur. That's the key, is to find those boom, because in that 75% of the time where the property is not performing, you could make another $1 million in that time frame. But people don't know how to do it because people think, oh, I could go to some auctions, go through some live properties, collect the brochures, do that for 3 months, and I've got my finger on the pulse with property pricing. You're still 70% off, but people don't know any other way to do it because that's how everybody else does it. But there's a unique way of doing due diligence that helps you get pinpoint accurate with property pricing. There's no online system that you can use to make you be pinpoint accurate with property pricing. It does not give, they don't give you the information that you need to be on there. And you'll see that when you attend our workshops. We'll go through how our due diligence system works. And literally takes hours and hours and hours to download that due diligence to you so you can understand it. And then you'll realize a lot of the stuff that's out there they're great tools, but they have their place, but they're not, there's still a high level of risk when utilizing the tools if you're just using those tools in its entirety. So people that have properties that don't perform, well, once I go through the exercise, which I'll do it in my workshop, you'll see it there, they totally understand now what they've done wrong in regards to buying that property as an investment. But the problem is everybody buys a property as an investment for all the same reasons. They all just want a property, create a nest egg and get some performance out of it. The best performance with the least amount of risk. But there's a structure to be able to do that. A lot of people don't know how to do that, which we go through. Okay, so because there's a high level of performance, that's what we focus on. We even launched a product years ago, which is called the $30,000 Property Investment Grant. So those of you out there that don't have an investment property, we can do a joint venture together if that's for you. This is only for people that don't have a deposit. Actually, this product, the banking rules are changing. So this is changing now. We have to adopt to whatever the banks say. But like a couple of years ago or a year ago, we could put $30,000 in and give that to a client as a deposit, interest-free, and the client was now a property owner with zero deposit. All they needed was an income to do the serviceability from the bank. But now the banks are all tightened up. There's a whole lot of different changes in the rules. It's only getting harder, so don't delay. It's where the banking rules are now and where they are in 6 months' time and 12 months' time can be different again. But right now, this $30,000 grant that we do, you still need to have some savings because they want to see genuine savings and they need a few other things in place as well. So we can still contribute $30,000 interest-free. What it means is that we split the capital growth 50-50 after all the costs have come out. So it doesn't cost you anything. But now, because of the banking rules, you still have to put another $15,000, $20,000 to make that work. Otherwise, when the banks loosen up their rules, then this will work again where we just have to put in 30 grand. You don't have to put anything in. But now for that to work, you still have to put in 15, 20 grand, which is pretty easy. If you don't have $15,000 or $20,000, that's no problem. We've got systems in place so you can achieve that in 6 to 12 months easily. So that's not an issue. I just want to play a little video on a couple of clients here. It only goes for less than 60 seconds, but a couple of experiences at clients where they put in zero deposit, right? And this is as of a year ago, put in zero deposit, and we put in $30,000 grant. Have a look at their results.
Hi, we're Chris and Cindy. We're from Cannon Hill in Queensland. And 2 years ago, we purchased an investment property through Real Estate Investing Australia. At the time, we had insufficient funds for an investment property. So Stephen put up 30 grand towards the initial deposit on a home for us. During that time, in 2 years, it's gone up $100,000, exactly what he said was going to happen. So we're now at the stage where we can pull out our equity. Alternatively, what Stephen's offered is that we can leave our 30 grand deposit in there and just do it all again, and that's what we're going to do.
Hello, my name's Jeremy. I'm here in my second workshop with Stephen Tolle and Real Estate Investing Australia. I had some good results from my first investment with Real Estate Investing Australia, so I'm here to go for the second one. I got results. I made close to about 90,000 in 10 months, so I'm keen to keep going and pushing towards my goals. So it's been good so far. I'm looking forward to the future.
So great results for clients that didn't even have any money. They had no money. They had no deposit whatsoever, and they made those results, which is fantastic. Now they're property owners and they're happy. And what that does is I'm creating clients that weren't clients before because they had no money. And what we did was now they have the loyalty and the trust starts to build. But that only comes with results. So we know that the trust and loyalty between you and I right now is very low because you're only getting to know me. But once you go through that process and you build, you get the results, then and time goes past, that's when the trust and loyalty starts to build, and that's when you become a repeat client. And that's the biggest part of our business is repeat clients. This is one of the reasons why I don't speak on stage all the time, is because we have a small boutique business. It's a turnkey where we do absolutely everything for our clients. So in regards to the property side of things, and yeah, and it's a small base. So that's a very special gift that we're giving out to Sam, and what Sam's giving to the Global1 client base there. So take advantage of it while you can. Okay, so I just want to highlight here, working smart versus not working smart. This is a normal situation here. Due to time frames, I don't have enough time to be able to go this, so we'll try and wrap this up. So what I'm going to do is, look, I'll have people, the most I've ever had in the audience, I'll say, how can you work smarter? So if you had a mortgage broker come to your home, they would say, look, if you did this, consolidate this debt, roll your credit, pay your credit card off so you're not paying high interest rates, and then consolidate this debt and roll over your switch from principal interest to interest only, free up some money, pay off the other debts, your credit cards or your car loans. They would identify a bunch of few points in there to try and work smarter, free up money, because I get a lot of people that come up to me and they say, Steve, I don't have the money to be able to do this. I'll be like, that's okay. Why don't you get my team of experts to have a look at it? and they will be able to see things that you just can't see because it's not what you do every day. So most of the audience will look at this and they'll see about 3 tops, or maybe 4 of the most situations where there's areas of concern that they can fix. The most I've ever had was 7, and that was from an accountant that was sitting in the audience. This is what we find. This is the amount of areas of concern that we find when our team of experts have a look at your situation. This at the moment is at 20% financially maximized. This is how many areas of concern that we can find on average with the average client that goes through our workshops. There's 13 areas of concern. What this does is, by working smarter, we're freeing up money that people didn't even realize that they had. This is now 100% financially maximized. And in this current situation, we freed up over $43,000 a year per year. So then now people will think, oh, I can't afford to do it. But what we're doing is we're freeing up money. It might be $5,000 for you, might be $10,000, might be $20,000 for your situation. I don't know what your situation is. But the point being is that even if it's $5,000, we're using that $5,000 to get you into a better financial situation. They're the funds that we're using to go out and invest with. Money that you've already got, but you don't even realize you can free it up. And that's the smart way of working or changing your lifestyle when it comes to your financial future. You've got to work smart first. If you don't, what will happen is you'll go through life, you'll be like a mouse on a wheel. You get to the other end, you said, listen, I did what I told, I did what my parents said. I got the education, I went to school, got the education, I worked hard, bought a house, raised a family. I spent 30 years paying off the house, or, you know, longer, because people buy a small house and then they buy a bigger house because they're having more kids. And then they're 60 years old, they probably still haven't even paid off their debt to the banks from the mortgage that they've got for the home. And then when they finally do that, they go, right, now I'm ready to invest, because their parents have told us, don't use credit cards, use cash for everything, don't buy any more properties, don't get any more debt, go out and just pay off your current home, and when you finish doing that, then maybe look at doing something else. But we don't do it because we're too old, and the banks won't lend you money once you hit 60 years old. You're finished. So what do? You still got to get money from the banks. Banks will say, what? You're 55 years old and you want to get a 30-year mortgage? How does that work? You need to pay it back. So it's all about doing it as soon as you possibly can and working smarter, free up as much money as you possibly can, and use that to go out and invest with. So people say, oh, Steve, I'll get a mortgage broker. He said if I can pay my monthly payments, I do bring them down to weekly payments, I could shave 4 years off my mortgage, and all those things help, but they're not going to make any dramatic difference. That's the problem. There are strategies that you need to implement. Mortgage brokers will never go through this stuff with you. It's too long-winded. They're just there to write the loan. People want bangers and mash when it comes to a mortgage. They want cheap interest rates, no fees, or low fees. And that's it. When they start talking complex structures, it's too confusing, and they'll go with somebody that makes it easier for them. So we're not about making your situation complex, but it's very easy because we're going to do it all for you. So it's a matter of, you just need to understand it. That's what our workshop's about. It's just understanding it, push the button, say, right, make it happen. It doesn't cost you anything, because the reason why it doesn't cost you anything, because our workshops are $3,000, but you're getting it for nothing. So all this stuff's included anyway. So I'll go through that in a moment. But when you've got a mortgage, here's what happens. This is how powerful our workshops are when you attend our workshop. You'll get access to things like this. If you've got a mortgage, an interest rate of 5%, how would you like to get a 3% reduction, in your mortgage interest rate? So it ends up being 2%. There's a strategy to that. You can't go to a bank and say, oh, can I get that? Real Estate Investing Australia are offering that. They'll say, no, what are you even talking about? Because there's a strategy behind implementing that sort of thing, about turning your non-tax deductible debt into tax deductible debt. We're going to explain it to you, and then it's so easy to implement, you don't even need to know how it works, but you just need to understand what's possible and how much impact that has on your life. This is how much impact, this is just one strategy, but there's multiple strategies that we're going to go through, and this is the sort of impact it can have. If you've got a $400,000 loan, you would save over $290,000 in interest and pay your home off in under 10 years. So $290,000 in interest. And yet you'd need to go and buy 3-4 properties to accumulate $2 million worth of liquid assets. So $290,000 in interest. And people will say, I'll go out and work for 50, 60 years and yet I'll throw $290,000 in interest. And the reason why you're working is because most of your money is going to paying off your mortgage. What if you could get all that money back, most of that money back, and use that money to go and invest and create more wealth? Can you see how you don't need to understand how this works? We go through that in our workshops, but this is what's possible when you attend our workshops, and you'll get to understand that. So that's going to be it for the body of my presentation. But what I'm going to go through now is basically what my workshops are about and what you're going to get. Now, remember, my workshops are $3,000. You are getting my workshops for free. All you have to do is register. You just need to go and register through this link. This is the link that's up here now. Click on that, register. Remember, there was only a few spaces available, just a few seats left in Brisbane and Melbourne and Sydney. So literally under 10 seats in each capital city. I think Brisbane was 4 seats or something like that. So because we just did the live event, everybody registered for it. Just contribute $97 for the catering because you get fed all day in a beautiful venue. It's an absolute no-brainer. You will see value, when I'm about to go through this, you'll see value in paying $3,000. So especially when you want to buy a house and you're saving $290,000 in interest, like I'm sure you can see value in that. So get on there, register. But what I'm going to go through now is what's involved. Now I'm going to do this. What I'm going to go through now, I'm going to go through it as if you're paying $3,000, but you're not. But I'm going to show you what's included. There's just a couple of things I need to delete from that for the reason that there's a lot of back end, but there's a back end labor in there, and which I just can't do because I'm giving the workshop for free. So I'm going to go through that as we go through the list of the inclusion. So it's called the Financial Freedom Workshop. What's included in the Financial Freedom Workshop? You get access to the $30,000 interest-free grant, or you can do it 100% on your own. We are a turnkey business. So that means we're like a team. Once you come on board, there's not too many. I keep a small amount of clients. I don't go and have thousands and thousands of clients like a lot of other speakers do. My business model's not set up for that. We're there to help you build a property investment portfolio. We do all the research. We do absolutely everything for you. The amount of research and risk, essentially what we're doing is there's risk in everything, but we're going to go through the entire property investing process, and we're going to show you how we're going to eliminate risk out all the way along. This is a 12-hour program where we go through all this. So if you don't have a deposit, you can utilize our $30,000 grant, interest-free. You still need about $15,000, $20,000 to come into play because the banking rules are getting harder these days. Now, with your DIY, you can do it on your own, where we don't do a joint venture or we don't get any capital growth of the thing. You can do it 100% on your own, and then off you go, and you can just utilize our turnkey services, okay? Now, you get the Advanced Real Estate Investing System. There's 52 audios and 52 ebooks. I used to have all this in 18 CDs, but we've updated everything, and everything's given to you on a gold USB. So what's included in this system? This system I sell on my website for $4,000. So I sell that all the time. You're going to be given this as part of the package, right? Remember, there's a $3,000 workshop. This is what I'm telling you what's included. You're getting this for free. You're not paying $3,000, but these are all the things that are included. So this is all the information that goes through this. What type of residential property should I buy? What drives the property market? When should I buy? What's the target market for my situation? How to buy property with little or no money down, the ins and outs of property finance, banks and interest rates and variable loans. How does all that work and how does it get affected? How does it affect you? Bad credit, let's fix it. The myths about median house price and the tricks a lot of these online websites use and all those sorts of things. This kit, the Advanced Real Estate Investing System, will get you from not knowing anything to basically becoming very super competent in being able to go out and do property investing on your own. So that's why people pay that amount of money. You get that, you'll get all that on USB. That will be given to you at the workshop. Now, you'll get access to my personal mentors. They will all be at the workshop as well. So mentoring successful people never reach their goals alone. And that's so true. I would not be able to offer you the things that I offer you if it wasn't for having the right team of having my mentors being able to mentor me to get to a point where I can, what you'll see at the workshop, that it's so full on and intense, but what you'll have is you'll walk out there with absolute clarity. It's a 12-hour program. You'll walk out with absolute clarity, and you'll get, I can't be an expert in tax. I can't be an expert in finance or an expert in due diligence across the whole of Australia, finding out what's the next hot spot to go out and invest in and why, because that takes, it's a full-time job to be able to do that, but it's not a full-time job for one person, it's full-time for a team. Like my accountant, for example, he sits in courtrooms and he watches other accountancy firms go through certain court processes to see what they can get away with and what they can't get away with. As soon as it works and the courts have authorised certain things, he implements it in his own business to have the competitive edge over all the other accountancy firms. And they don't find out about these things for years and years and years later, so they're all working behind the eight ball, so to speak. So these guys that I have on my team are the best of the best that I can possibly find in Australia over the last 20 years. And it's like anything. You always find a better mechanic, and it's the same thing with the accountants, same thing with finance and the lawyers and all the rest of it. So, yeah, we've got a very, very powerful team, and you'll get to meet them at the workshop. Okay, we'll show you multiple ways on how to pay your mortgage off in under 10 years, not costing you 1 extra cent out of your pocket. So you're going to learn all these things, which is super powerful. These strategies that you're going to learn are more powerful than the property. Property is one thing, and having a property that performs, that's all well and great. But you know what? Some people might have just got one home and they might not be in a position to buy a property just yet. So just implementing these strategies and learning how to pay off your 30-year mortgage in under 10 years without affecting your lifestyle, pulling extra money out of your pocket, that is life-changing within itself. That alone is worth it, just attending the event. So that's when I spoke about the 3% induction. There's other strategies outside of just that. That's just one strategy. There's plenty of other strategies outside of that that we'll go through in the workshop. Okay, it's one thing for me to say, oh, look, we got the hotspot and the best location in Australia at this price point, the best. That's one thing to say it, but you need to understand it. And it takes us literally, we spend 4 or 5 hours going through the due diligence on why. And so then you can do your own research and see for yourself, and we encourage that. So you can see exactly how and why it is the best location, which takes me, we'll put it this way. I had Macro Plan, we just did a round of workshops just 1.5 months ago all across Australia. And I spent $5,000 just to get Macro Plan, just to explain to our audience for half an hour just on why these locations are the best in there. Now, to give you an idea, Macro Plan, Joel from Macro Plan who spoke, when Woolworths or Coles want to open up a shopping centre and start acquiring land in 10 or 15 years' time, they go to Macro Plan, and Macro Plan tells them where to go and invest, where the population are increasing, where they're going to get really good, strong growth. So I paid $5,000 for each event that he spoke at, which are 4 events that we just did a round of workshops in. And on top of that, I've got my due diligence team coming in there and just honing in specifically on the estates and where there's price-controlled subdivisions, where the developers, the likes of Lend-Lease, Australand, Landcom, these are floated organisations that build communities, not full of investors. High dominance are like 80, 90, 95% owner-occupiers, and we get drip-fed stocks from them. Most people can't get that, but it's because of the relationships that we have. I've got videos that you'll see in our workshops from Lend-Lease. Them senior marketing management have signed off on these videos telling us, right, that they're increasing their stages $3,500, $4,000, $5,500 every stage, and they're releasing 7 stages in 1 year, 8 stages. So that means our clients are making $30,000, $40,000 or $50,000. We know that's going to happen because they've got a plan in place to sell all these lots out to the market. And so what we do is we just take a lot of the guesswork out of property investing, and it puts you in the best position for performance. And that's all we're trying to do. We don't have a crystal ball either, but I'll tell you what, some of the information that we get from these large developers, and that comes down to having voice-to-voice contact, and my due diligence team bonding with these guys and getting that inside information. You'll never find this stuff out on Google. You'll never find this stuff out on realestate.com and RP data or anything like that. And that's what I'm talking about. The due diligence, it's physical manpower. Costs us a lot of money to be able to get access to this stuff. But what happens is our clients get a result because of it. And as our clients get a result, they want more of it. And when they want more of it, our business grows as a result. And that's why a big part of our business is repeat business. And that's why we just have to keep it small, because you know what? There's only a small handful of great stock that you can get access to out in the marketplace, and you can't feed that. You can't feed everybody. So one-day financial freedom. There's a 12-hour program. Look, my advice is bring your partner. We make it literally compulsory to bring your partner to these 12-hour programs. Why? Because you're just going to go home, your adrenaline glands are going to be pumping. It's pretty much like this for 12 hours. Lots of different speakers that are going through, my mentors, my team. You'll get to see everyone that operates in my team on a day-to-day basis, internally and externally as well. And it's just too much information to try and relay that to your partner when you get home. Just easier. If you have to take a day off, take a day off. Say the cat's sick, whatever you have to do, but attend that thing, because it's all about not having to work for the rest of your life. That'd be one of the best investments you ever do, especially because you're not paying $3,000. So there's no master classes, there's no upselling. This is the master class that you're attending, okay? There's no selling to a different program or anything along those lines. I want to be that very clear. So what are you going to learn in this 12-hour program? This is what you're going to learn in our workshop. Multiple ways to pay your home loan off in under 10 years. Turn your non-tax deductible debt into tax deductible debt. Build a multi-million-dollar property portfolio with no deposit. Not pay capital gains tax when you sell your investment property. Protect your assets, your home and possessions without paying stamp duty, land tax, and still receive all your tax benefits. I didn't even go into this. So this is a unique strategy. So instead of having to pay stamp duty again and not get all the tax benefits and pay land tax every year by putting your property in a trust to protect it, which you want to do, we've got a strategy that will do that, and all it will cost you is like $1,600 to be able to implement that. And you can protect all your investment properties for the same $1,600. So you still get all the tax benefits. You don't have to pay land tax every year like you do if it's sitting in a trust. You're still utilizing a trust, but it's a unique way, a unique strategy of utilizing a trust to protect your assets. And then you don't have to pay stamp duty again. So you work your whole life to build equity, and then you lose it all because something silly, someone sues you. We want to try and avoid that. So it's a really affordable way to do that. Reduce your tax to almost zero. Retire in less than 10 years with a passive income of over $100,000 per annum. And invest in Australia's hottest location right now and obtain above average capital growth even when the market is flat. That's when the true skill of what we do comes out. So most people will go, it's easy to make money in a hot market, but when the market's flat and you want to still keep growing, that's when the true skill of what we do. And to see the true skill, you've got to see the due diligence that we go through and how to work smart first and compile it all together. It's super, super powerful, and it performs in any market. So it's irrelevant. Recession, bring it on. It doesn't make any difference. But you've got to find this stuff out to be able to, you've got to see it with your own eyes to understand it. Okay, 10-year mentoring program. So what this basically is, look, I'm going to change this, right? So I've got to delete this from the offering because I'm not charging you. So it's very labor intensive to do a 10-year mentoring program from the back end of our business. So it's not going to be a mentoring program, but we're going to support you, okay? So we have phone, email, contact support. We're just not going to be on your back and personally mentor and coach you the way you would as if you paid $3,000. So because you're getting this program for free, there's one of the things I've had to take out of it, but you still get full email, phone support. You can attend our workshops. That's the other thing. You can attend our workshops because now you're part of our family as many times as you like for free. Okay, so some people might not be in a position to do something straight away, but they are in 6 months, but they forgot everything that they learned in the workshop. So they want a refresher plus new updated information in our workshops as well. So that's another benefit. Our next workshop dates are here. Melbourne CBD location. That's held at the Novotel Melbourne CBD on Collins, 7th of June 2017. You might want to write all these down before I flick the slide because I'm over time already. Brisbane is the 14th of June 2017. Sydney is the 5th of July, held at Sydney Olympic Park on July 2017. Once you register, our staff will be in contact with you the following day or within 48 hours, working hours that is, and they will go through the whole they'll welcome you on board and they'll go through the process that you need to go through. You will be treated as if you've just paid $3,000, but clearly you're not. You're only paying $97 for the catering of the workshop. So you'll go through the process as if you paid $3,000, okay? Now, there's a results video here. I'm not going to play this because it goes too long, but there's clients here that have made $60,000 in 6 weeks, $50,000 4 months, $75,000 7 months, 30K in 6 weeks, those sort of things. So that will be emailed to you. You'll get access to all that afterwards. I just don't have time to be able to play that because I've got to get off the webinar very shortly. So let's recap on what you get. You get access to the $30,000 property investment grant. You get the 1-day intensive financial freedom workshop worth $3,000. You get the 10-year, well, you're not going to get a 10-year mentoring program, you're going to get the support. So we'll be there for you no matter what. If you have any questions, you ring up and we'll be there to support and guide you all the way along. Remember, this is a turnkey package. We do everything for you. You can still go off and work, and we do all the management for you, help you build your property portfolio. We do all the sourcing of properties, everything like that, okay? So it's nice and easy for you. Access to my team of experts. You get my A team. They will all be at the workshop. You can ask them any questions that you like. You get the advanced real estate investing system. That will be given to you at the workshop. Mindset mentoring program, which I didn't even speak about that. That's when emails get sent to you pretty much every week just to keep you, help you with your mindset and all those sorts of things. A bit like a Tony Robbins event to some degree. Property investment calculator, $249. This will tell you to the dollar. Now, these sometimes items might change because these are external products that we buy. Sometimes they change or they charge different prices, so we just have to adapt according to them. But you'll get one of these also included. If not, we can always do all the calculating. And this is to tell you to the dollar where every dollar is going on your investment properties and when can you go and purchase next and all the rest of it. You'll get an autographed book from Real Estate Millionaire. That's a book that I've co-authored, so you'll get one of those. They'll be given to you at the workshop. The asset protection, look, you know, people are selling that $5,000, $6,000. You'll get that at $3,500 discount, so you get it for about $1,500, $1,600. That's a total value of $53,000. Now, people pay anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 to attend this event. This is obviously what I'd go through. That's a workshop investment, fully catered for. Partners attend for free when they pay that $3,000 program. But what we're doing right now is I'm not going to charge you at all. And the reason for one of the reasons also for doing this is what Samantha and I have identified is that people that sit in a workshop, when you're charging $3,000, $5,000, everyone needs to do this sort of education because it only helps them in life. Otherwise, you know, you're going to university, you're still not learning this type of stuff. But when you're in a room and you charge $3,000, $5,000, what happens? Like the old 80-20 rule. 20% take action, and usually they're the people that got money. They're just leveraging the money that they've got and making more money out of it. And 80% do nothing. And when I'd speak to these people, I'd say, why didn't you do my workshop? What happened? I say, what, do I stink or something? And they'll say, no, we want to do it. We just can't afford to do it. I said, well, okay, now there's no excuse. Now, with this offering, because it's free, just contribute $97 for the catering, you can all do it. There's no excuse for anybody not to do it. So, and that's the gift from Samantha Brown to her database. So you can send off plenty of emails to thank her for this offering because I've never done this before and you know, may very well not ever do it again, but never want to say never. So if you're not sure whether you should be doing this or not, just have to answer this simple question. Do you have $2 million liquid cash or you own 4 investment properties outright? If you do, you don't need to do this course. You can still do it and leverage your situation. But if you don't have $2 million liquid cash or you don't own 4 investment properties outright, then you must be doing this course. It's as simple as that. There's no question about it because we're going to teach you how to create financial freedom within 10 years. So once again, this is the offer. Workshop special today on this webinar. You're saving $3,000. You're not paying $3,000. You're getting it for free. It's $97 per person. And this is the link above. It's a fully catered event. You're just contributing costs for the catering. Click on that. Oh, well, you can't click on it. You need to copy that link down. It's global1.com.au/financial freedom. Go onto the web page, register, pay. It's probably already filled up by now, but don't wait any longer because there's only a few seats left because we just did that live event. Now, I'm just going to answer a couple of quick questions that have come through on the webinar. One of them is it $97 per person? The answer is yes. It's $97 per person. So if you bring your partner, it would be $97 each. It's not $97 for you and your partner comes for free. It's for both. It's per person. Now, if you Now, one of the other questions is there any selling or masterclass courses? I've said this before. No, there's not. This is it. This is like our masterclass course. People are paid anywhere from $3,000 to $5,500, depending on what the product offering is. But that's all there is at this workshop. So you're getting this workshop for free. Register now. It'll be the best thing you ever do. It's the best value for money that you'll ever get. It's free. So this is it for me now. I'm just closing it off. So I've gone a little bit over time, so I apologise for that. But I hope you got something out of that. Apologise for leaving out a whole lot of educational chunks out of this webinar because of the restricted time frame that I've had. But you'll get all those, and we'll go in full explanation in our workshop. It's tailor-made to accommodate for everyone. And then what we do is there's strategy sessions after the workshop that tailor-make everything that you're learning to tailor-make to suit your personal circumstances, which is very, very powerful. So once you go through the registration process, we'll talk to you about that. And there's no cost. So that's all included as part of this offering. So you'll have personal strategy sessions and all those sorts of things. So it's very powerful. And what we'll do is we'll walk out of that workshop with a clear direction of what you need to do moving forward in life, whatever avenue you want to go down. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much, Samantha, for giving me the time to speak to everybody that never had the opportunity to attend the live event. But there's only a few seats left, so lock those in, and we'll see you at the workshop, and our staff will be in contact with you in the next 48 hours. So thank you very much, and I hope you got a lot out of this webinar. All the best. Bye-bye.